So I'm really thrilled to be with you for tonight for this program, which is based on the collection of paper ephemera that we built over the years with my dear father Guido. We first got hooked to the topic of Valentines through our passion for illustrations by Frances Brundage. This exemplary American artist started her career by providing numerous works to the British publisher Raphael Tuck, who was known worldwide for the quality of his prints. This colorful paper fan dates from the turn of the century and well represents the style of Brundage, who later also worked for Samuel Gabriel and Salfield. Note the heart-shaped portraits and the color scheme still unchanged today for Valentine's Day. The excellence of Brundage artwork is amazing, especially when one considers the amount of illustrations that she provided. Hundreds of children books were graced by her creations, thousands of postcards, other types of ephemera such as paper dolls, and of course, Valentine cards such as this one. One can wonder if this illustration did not inspire Swedish artist Astrid Lindgren for her well-known character Pippi. This Valentine, for example, has all of the characteristics of a top quality piece of ephemera. Sorry, here we are. A big size, a pristine condition, a child representation, and a surprise. Look, mechanical pieces of ephemera, such as this one, which has the basket opening to reveal a bouquet, are highly sought after by today's collectors. In fact, they incarnate the aesthetics of the late 19th century down to the 30s, which also coincides with the golden age of doll making. It's not surprising that Frances Brundage also created paper dolls such as these, published both in the US and in the UK, and often printed in Germany. The trick of a basket opening to show off flowers was a classic that Raphael Tuck masterfully produced. Beauty and humor were typical of Brundage's forte, what explains why collectors still look for her artwork today. Most of Tuck's Valentines designed by Brundage included one or more movements, here a simple one with the moving hat. This was one of my favorites and my father's favorites, and I always enjoyed to, uh, you know, take those out and show them to him when he was already disabled, and it took a lot of pleasure out of these paper things over the years. This kid sailor moves both arms and legs by pulling a cord in the back. And this pretty girl reveals bouquets of flowers hidden behind her flower baskets. Here are flowers brought to you, each one speaks a message true. Aren't those nice ways of expressing love for Valentine? Those were the days when dolls as well worked as ambassadors for humans who wished to express their love. And the love message sometimes was brought by popular comics characters such as Buster Brown. This one I love particularly. I think it's so expressive. Always generated by the talented Brundage, this Valentine's card weighs in the concept that love needs to be absolute. You love me, then you have to love my dog as well. This more intricate Valentine's card generates the movements of the arms of the young boy who plays an accordion, wishing Valentine greetings. On this unusual item finishes my little introductory homage to Frances Brundage. Now, let's evoke the origin of St. Valentine's festivity. In the Roman pagan traditions, between February 13 and 15 was held a fertility festival called Lupercalia. Mythological characters such as Cupid and Pan were featured as the center of this festival. A goat was sacrificed to honor the god Lupercus, also known as Faun or Pan in the Greek civilization, the protector of herds from the wolf, Lupus. Nude young man wearing a goatskin thong ran through villages, sweating young maidens with goatskin whips soaked in blood in order to increase their fertility. Well, uh, we are very far from uh, what we uh, get out of Valentine's tradition from this origin, but this is what it originally was all about: fertility. This monumental painting on display at the Prado shows the Lupercalia festival held under the statue of Lupercus, the fertility god that you can notice upright on this painting. This is a huge painting that we admired lately in Spain when we went with a group there. Now, this pagan festival coincided in the Roman calendar with the celebration of the foundation of Rome and the famous episode of Romulus and Remus, fed by a different kind of wolf, the very maternal Lupa de Roma. Saint Valentine, officially known as Saint Valentine of Rome, is a 3rd century Roman saint widely celebrated on February 14th and commonly associated with courtly love. Although not much of Saint Valentine's life is reliably known, and whether or not stories involve two different saints by the same name is also not officially decided. It is highly agreed, though, that Saint Valentine was martyred and then buried on the Flaminia road to the north of Rome. One common story about Saint Valentine is that in one point of his life, as the former bishop of Terni, Narnia, and Amelia, he was on house arrest with Judge Asterius. While discussing religion and faith with the judge, Valentine pledged the validity of Jesus. The judge immediately put Valentine and his faith to the test. Saint Valentine was presented with the judge's blind daughter and told to restore her sight. If he succeeded, the judge vowed to do anything for Valentine in return. Placing his hands onto her eyes, Valentine restored the child's vision. Saint Valentine refused to renounce his faith and Christianity, though, and was executed outside the Flaminian Gate on February 14, 269. Other depictions of Saint Valentine's arrest tell that he secretly married couples so husbands wouldn't have to go to war. Another variation of the legend of Saint Valentine says he refused to sacrifice to pagan gods, was imprisoned, and while in jail, he healed the jailer's blind daughter. So the character of this blind daughter uh, appears in various stages in the story of Saint Valentine. On the day of his execution, he left the girl a note signed Your Valentine. And this is what leads to our tradition today of sending a Valentine card for Saint Valentine. Well, the item that we are showing here is an earlier one from, I would say, the 3rd quarter of the 19th century. Um, Industrially speaking, the, the, the habit of printing Valentine cards really dates back to the 1840s, but it is toward the last 2 decades of the 19th century that publishers developed the concept of ready-made greeting cards for Valentine's Day. Images such as these pop up slightly as to give depth to the card and represent the obvious cliché showing their sentimental purpose. Now, the majority of the items that we collected with my father are industrially made. We didn't really reach out to add early handmade pieces to our collection, but I don't exclude that these would end up entering our collection in the future. From the same generation, simple pop-up cards could show the portrait of a girl or a boy surrounded by flowers, and finally die-cut lace paper decorations and showing a synthetic message, here a promising forever yours. This Valentine card was sent to a certain Nellie Gibson in Massachusetts and shows an ornate decoration combining chromatography, die-cut gilded and embossed details, different color backgrounds, and two messages, one short on the front page and a longer one inside the card. From the post stamp, it looks sent and received the same day. Something tells we miss some steps in the efficiency of our public postal service. Am I wrong? Industrially speaking, it is only towards the turn of the century that Valentine cards became a concrete business, aimed to involve all classes, more so in English-speaking countries than in the rest of the world. This one has a particular system that uh, uh, shows the character as if he was walking. She was walking. A token of love, this is the angle publisher chose in order to promote the habit of sending cards for February 14, targeting the largest possible audience. Here we are. The usual ingredients used for this successful recipe were once more based on mythology. A child, winged or not, personifies Cupid, the love messenger of the gods, often carrying heart-shaped candies and flowers, and of course, a message of love. Hearts are the second cliché expected on a Valentine's card. This particular one, printed in America, shows an eye mechanism that enhances the flirting purpose of the card. The commercial force of Valentine's consisted in the universality of the message. No gender is involved here. For example, Barry Lester Hayes chooses the image of a 5-year-old boy to send his Valentine's card to Murray Johnson, represented as a teddy bear who does tricks. Well, try to send an identical card today. I leave to your imagination how it could be interpreted. In this case, we have little Wanda who sends her Valentine to her cousin Paul. Oh, I don't think it showed here. This is the one about little Wanda sending her greetings to little Paul, cousin Paul. And here we have a romantic boat showing a passionate sailor wishing to offer his red flowers and his love letter to a couple impersonated by a chanting girl and an inspired violinist. The detail in the printing is spectacular. This was printed in Germany and it really is fantastic and very intricate in the die cut. One can read, "To Miss Carol from Harry, Joanna, and Alberta." Well, whatever makes you happy, my dears. Or the simple yet charming card sent by Jeannette à mon amie, to my girlfriend, a message partially concealed by the shape of the paper, revealed if one pulls on an arrow in the back. These other cards show a charming little boy that evidently feels in love with an entire crowd, according to the number of love letters that is aiming to share. Some Valentine cards could be very subtle. Here, the word souvenir, related to the image of two doves and a deep red flower unfolding once the card is open, evoke possibly the happy marriage of a couple. Or was it perceived as the wish for an happy ending of a blooming love story? Very nice piece, this one as well. Other cards were simply meant to compliment someone's sweetheart. Note the very typical Art Nouveau lines on this one, which was possibly printed toward the very end of the 19th century with some finely embossed details. Innigen Glückswunsch, heartfelt good wishes, another example of a German Valentine's card with a message that suggests sentimental purpose without uh, being very direct. A proper boy wearing his Sunday best velvet attire holds a pot of roses supported by a good-willing Cupid, while a trio of spring swallows um, reveals a couple of doves flirting under a delicate pink peonia, opening up surrounded by myosotis flowers, which in French are called aime-moi, love me. Hmm. Sometimes the change of these pictures is kind of slow. Here it comes. At the opposite end of the spectrum, this Valentine's card suggests a proper but much less romantic message, doesn't it? In Valentine's La La Land, the codes for romance are in most cases very predictable and often based on the language of flowers, so popular during the Victorian era. The coded language of florography meant that Victorians could express affection, desire, disdain, allowing a society governed by strict etiquette to show its true feelings. Flowers have a long-standing tradition as a means of emotional expression, but today such refinement seems to have disappeared in the publishing industry of current Valentine's cards. I guess I know why I like to collect Valentine's cards from the past. It's because I do not quite fit into this 21st century mentality. Well, I'm really must be a Victorian soul deep inside. Speaking of Victorian, do you remember that episode in Downton Abbey where everyone receives the Valentine card, including Daisy, the cook helper, who wonders who sent it to her, and it turns out to be from Mrs. Patmore, the main cook, who wished to prevent Daisy from being the only one not receiving any? This brings me to evoke that traditionally, Valentines were used as a way to express love or friendship in the largest possible way. The publishing industry promoted that social habit so that it would involve everyone from children to elderly people, all gender included, while today Valentine's card focus essentially on romance or more lewd encounters. Pop-up cards quickly became the ideal item to show off in a vitrine, a bookshelf, or a boudoir. Here, this one stages Cupid and Puto, surrounded by a couple of doves and flowers that evoke love and romance. How more sugary one can get. Yet, these illustrations are just irresistible to me. This early 20th century simple pop-up card combines three different messages. An introductory in all sincerity, revealing forget me not, I ask of thee, reserve one spot in your heart for me, and finally, to my Valentine. Sorry, this one ended up missing a dove on the top right. More elaborate folding systems used fine tissue paper to create volumes, like in this case, where the boy opens up a red umbrella in front of an equally red and fluffy bush of flowers. This 1920s specimen shows a googly-eyed Dutch girl holding a doll while wondering who her Valentine could possibly be. The majority of these cards, both European or American, were printed in Germany. A deeper research would be interesting to understand which printing companies produced what. This one as well was printed in Germany for the American market during the 1930s. Some dealers call these surprise valentines. In France, we call them chrono à système. A variation from the same publisher shows very synthetic yet effective messages. With love, to my Valentine. And this other message of love adds to the series. How many different were printed at the time? One wonders. And for sure, I know I would love to find and keep one of each. This improbable one shows a little girl dressed as a housekeeper, holding a garbage shovel, begging to be chosen as your Valentine. Note the articulated arms and eyes. I'm sure feminists would just grind their teeth at this one. And note the fact that she is actually missing her little brush that disappeared. Always from the roaring 20s, this impish character extracts a red heart from her Valentine's card. Isn't she sweet? And she even has little uh, heart-shaped decorations on her dress. This other creative character machine stitches her heart-shaped Valentine card, while her dolly patiently sits in her sewing basket. Dolls are sometimes present in Valentine cards, but they are not as frequent as one could think. One more example of a romantic little girl who has a textile detail incorporated, a true ribbon bow in her hair. Side glancing children escape the cow's horns. The boy jumps successfully out of danger, while the girl feels too deeply in love to mind running safely and falling, spreading her heart-shaped candies while she holds tight her Valentine's card. These lively uh, Valentines with movement are actually the type of Valentine card that I like to collect today. The rear view shows how it worked, as well as a personification of who the silly neighbor girl is. Her name is Lucille. I now would like to share some of my very favorite pieces in the collection, of which I'm afraid you only saw the tip of the iceberg. This one is from Germany, and if you look at the quality of the print, it's quite extraordinary. I would say it's toward the very end of the 19th century, but with very precise details, both in the printing and in the die cut work. Children's subjects are top on my list of requirements for a Valentine. Sometimes the quality of the printing is not top, like in this case, but when condition and composition catch my eye, I usually surrender. Mechanical pieces, of course, uh, are mm, more interesting as collectibles, and this one has this very unusual shape of a moon and the two little characters include a little dolly in the arms of the little girl. Mechanical pieces, of course, are a favorite of mine, and this one adds the charm of pets to the scene. My father collected monkeys, so this one was very special to him. The message says, "Don't monkey with my heart." This German printed piece is small but very well printed and so classic. Art Nouveau styled ones are also among my favorite styles for Valentine's. And sometimes, like in this case, I keep a few that, in spite of a damage, call the perfect one to appear or can be fixed for the best. Here, Cupid's head needs to get back into the right place. Of course, pristine ones with mechanical pieces and an elaborate folding system make my heart go pity-pat. Look at the pristine condition of that tissue paper. It's fantastic. This is the rear view of this great example, which is quite big because it's about um, 12 inches, 12 inches long. And we reach this piece that is probably my favorite of those that I share tonight. It's a very intricate folded Valentine, which when unfolded, it gives this. This is huge. It's about 19 inches in size. And this is what it looks in the back. And on this image, I wish you all happy Valentine Day, and I thank you for your attention.